welcome to the Pitch of Discontent. This is Owen back again for another guest episode. Very pumped to have the boys in the studio. It's Josh and Brent from Sunbleached. Hello, fellas. How we doing?
How we doing, gang?
I'm good.
Yeah, you guys are in the middle of some shows, running on a couple of hours sleep. We've got several beverages going. How you guys feeling?
I'm feeling good.
I'm feeling great after that coffee. I destroyed it.
Those little pods are good. You can just kind of knock them straight back.
It's usually a two pod morning if I'm staying at my partner's with a little pod machine as well. So
yeah, I'm happy to be drinking a stout. I just smashed a coffee as well, so I'm feeling a little bit more energetic. It's good. Yeah.
Sick. Well, thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate you guys coming to the studio and fitting us into your schedule.
Thanks for having us, man.
You're very welcome. For listeners who might not be familiar with you guys and the band, let's run through some little introductions. Josh, can you kick us off? Who are you and what do you do?
I am Josh. I sing in the band called Sunbleached.
Very formal. Great.
Yeah. And that's what I do. Do you want to know my occupation as well? Or?
Nah, we can get into that later. I guess with the band, are you the primary lyricist as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just like to put a pin in that because we'll come back to that later. Brent, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Brent and I play guitar and have been for about 2.5 years now. 2 years?
Yeah.
I think it was like the start of 22.
Yeah, it must be going on 2 years.
Yeah,
now, really.
That I've been playing with the gang.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been friends with the other guitarist Bradley since our first shitty metalcore band. So a little bit nice dated back. Like I've got the messages from Bradley being like, "Oi, what do you think of this song? I'm starting a rock band."
A rock band.
A rock band.
Yes.
And me being too busy with my, at the time, one band said no, stupidly, but now I'm in a billion.
What shitty metalcore band are we talking about here? Let's name names.
Mine was Arbor Lane and Without Wings We Fall back in the day.
Right, okay. Deep cuts, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, this is like 2010 to 2012.
Right, okay.
And Bradley paid in
Road to Ransom. Yeah.
I remember Road to Ransom.
Yeah,
okay.
they had a little bit of a pop off. And just another metalcore band that I can't even remember. We were listening to it in Newcastle. He showed us like the first song he ever wrote. We were showing our first shit song. So
yeah, sick.
Yeah.
Well, how does it feel to be in a bona fide rock band now?
It's sick.
Feels good.
Yeah.
Feels
After
good.
playing in like more metal bands than anything, getting to
Been
destroy my neck after every show or like it's sick. Like having that gap to be able to like not need to go the entire time.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah. I've been I'd been trying to get this project sort of in varying forms off the ground since like 2014, 2015.
Right,
so there was like a previous iteration of this, and Bradley was in that, but the songwriting was done by a guy named Jake Calrow. And he's like a pretty big producer now. So he does like rap music and stuff like that. But I think he's done stuff for like 1-4 and
That's crazy.
Creed the Kid and stuff like that. I think he works with Universal or Warner or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And then, it just sort of lined up with Bradley in 2018. And that's sort of
the genesis of things. What was kind of the idea for the project? Like you said, you've been trying to get it off the ground in fits and starts. Like, what was the initial vision that became Sunbleached?
I just love you know, the music and the style and like the aesthetic of the 90s. You know, I grew up listening to, you know, my mum's like Jeff Buckley CDs, and not that he's, you know, he's kind of grungy. I mean, he was a man of a man of his time,
rock
you know.
band adjacent, surely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, have you seen the live in Chicago?
I haven't.
Yeah, that's the live performance is very, very grungy.
Yeah. Sick.
And like Nirvana and stuff like that. And then like I fell in love with Title Fight. Must have been like when they did the Shed album, and just wanted to do something with that sound for ages. And yeah, it just sort of came from that, you know, 2010 Rumper Cover era.
That's sick
sort of
too,
stuff.
because like that's such a cool, like those early Title Fight records. It's such a cool like amalgamation of all those different styles. Like those dudes all come out of like the East Coast hardcore scene in the US, but they were very much like doing grunge revival stuff, and then, you know, all the way through to Hyperview, very much into like shoegaze and kind of stretching and elongating out their previous like 1 minute songs into like 5 minute songs. Yeah, I guess like bringing those styles together is something that I've definitely heard before, but I think what you guys are doing is still unique enough and original, particularly with like the lyrical stuff that you're doing, Josh.
Thank you.
And just kind of the general vibe of the band is refreshing to me. So
Thank you. Yeah.
for you, Brent, like coming into the band, I guess like after it was already established, what was it about Sunbleached that kind of drew you in?
Well, for me, it was like a really big thing of like, I always had I felt like I'd missed the train because I had initially said no.
Yeah.
And then getting to share some shows together and like listening to the tracks and being like, because I really love that kind of music as well. Like getting really into like Nirvana is the reason I started playing guitar, sort of deal.
Yeah.
So having that like really grungy like band, it was just something that I'd never done before live. And then getting because Josh and I were chatting at the Triffid.
Was it Triffid or was it Princess?
No, it was definitely Triffid because you were chatting to me beforehand, and then we established it more at the Princess Theatre.
Yeah, right.
He was really drunk and was like, "Hey, you filling ins?" And I was just like, "Yeah, man, totally. Let me know.
Let's go.
Yeah, that'd be so sick. Happily play a show." Like,
And then he wakes up the next day and he's like,
"Oh, that's right. I think because I even like." When I do like the fill-in stuff, I was charging, and I was just like, I'll do the learning, and I do this one for the cheap, and then they're like, "Do you want to join?" I was like, "Cool, yeah." But yeah, just having like, when I've joined Bradley's a very analog in a digital realm kind of person, which is really nice and like slightly refreshing to have. Like, he is the reason I bought a new tube amp, because I usually run an Axe FX for all my metal projects.
Yeah.
And then having that compared to his balls to the walls orange is just, it's like I'm pissing in the wind.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but
like
you can hear
that.
the tone difference.
Yeah, and like I definitely like. Well, if the singer of my other band hears this, he'll squeal in his pants. But yeah, you can totally tell the difference between it digitally and versing like a tube amp. So it was really nice to like actually crack out all my pedals and everything again. Like that was really
Just
really
get
sick.
into that tangible, real, physical kind of stuff.
And like I think like one of the main things, like the other guitarist Bradley just was like, the chorus is always on. Like, all right, sick. Yeah. So in my pedal loop, like that's one of the channels that's like on from 0 to end of set, like it's always running.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah, the slightly more, to jump back on the topic, but yeah, slightly more like to answer your question, like what I found a little different to it would have been more the way they were like accessing it, in not really being bound to, oh, well, if we're this alt rock band, then every song has to be at the same BPM with the same driving tempo. Like the first demo I heard was Rain on Hot Cement, and then the next song after that I really kind of paid attention to was Passenger. and they're like completely different songs. So I was just like, oh, that's cool that they're still doing something different, but it was just cool.
Dynamic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. And at the time we also had another person I'm friends with playing drums for us.
Right.
So it was like a pretty easy slot in. Like I was comfortable. I didn't really feel like I had to meet too many new people, which was really
always
nice.
helps.
Yeah,
Especially if you're like gonna join a new project. Like familiar faces are probably a good thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
it was sick to be able to have people that I could just be like, tell me if I'm doing the wrong thing. Please tell me if I'm like screwing up or like, that sort of stuff, because that's just how my brain operates.
No, that's completely fair. Let's talk about the progression from the previous EP to this one. So, Delicate Places We Hide was last year. I forget the month. It was early in 2023, right?
Yeah, it was April.
April? Yeah, that seems
I
right.
think so. Yeah.
So you've gone a little bit over 12 months to a new EP.
Yep.
What was the feeling in the band going into writing new material? What were you trying to do and progress with this new batch of songs?
Yeah, so we work off a backlog of songs that Bradley and Dylan write together, so they'll normally track together, and then
and Dylan's like the producer and collaborator that you guys go to.
Yeah. He, bar the first 3 songs that we released, has demoed pretty much everything.
Yeah, been the engineer recorded.
Is it kind of like a Will Yip, like, 5th or 6th member of the band type situation?
Yeah, he's definitely like a secret member for sure.
Yeah. All the best bands have a secret member who's like, who's in the back room, kind of just like pulling puppet strings.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
We
don't
want to give too much.
Yeah.
Sure.
We still got to pay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So I think Delicate Places We Hide, we were sort of hoping to put that out and then get some sort of label backing off of the back of that. And we spoke to Ash, our booking agent, and he was sort of like, oh, look, I think you guys probably need to do another EP and get a little bit more like touring history and stuff behind you guys, which is absolutely solid advice. And then, so we cherry picked from the backlog songs that. So we had already written a substantial amount of new material for the new direction. So we picked sort of tracks that were
it's like transitional tracks.
So stuff that wasn't too far sonically from
the original.
From that sound.
Okay. It's like calling them B-sides without calling them B-sides.
Okay.
Like, they're still
I wouldn't call them B-sides at all.
It's like that accurate. It's like the transitional period. So like someone could listen to the previous and the next one and still get a good feel of it.
Yeah.
It's like, for example, like the back half of Shed, you start to hear the direction that Title Fight are going to take in Floral Green.
Yeah.
And then the back half of Floral Green, you start to hear
what they're doing on Hyperview.
It's that sort of thing. So No Cure was originally written to come out with Delicate Places We Hide. It just needed more time in the oven, so it didn't make the cut. But yeah, that song's supposed to be sort of an amalgamation of all the elements on Delicate Places. Yeah, did I answer the question?
Yeah,
cool.
you got it.
Cool.
No, I think like as someone who's kind of listened to the band from the very beginning, like I definitely don't notice any like continuity error or anything from release to release. Like it all definitely sounds of the same vibe, the same band, and as you push and pull in different directions, that's a very welcome thing. But I haven't listened to a song yet and been like, is this a Sunbleached song? Like, what the fuck's going on? There's no like crazy left turns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really dug that about No Cure because it like has a chorus but doesn't feel like it has a chorus. Like the structure of that song is a little twisted, which I really dug. And it honestly surprised us all when we got like a lot of Triple J plays off that. Like,
yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That it was almost not to take away from the song, but it's like we almost put it out like, all right, we'll do that one to get rid of it. Like the first one, it might get.
We'll throw that one at the wall, yeah.
Yeah,
and then
especially if it was from like the previous session or whatever.
Yeah,
you're like, well, it's a little bit underbaked, but we'll fix it up and we'll put it out.
Yeah,
and there we go.
Yeah, I guess that's more so what I meant by like the B sides.
Yeah,
is it was like from the same era, but they were still worth giving the time of day to still end up being released. Like there's a reason they're not Google Drive songs.
Well, there's a reason why it's not Delicate Places. We had B-sides.
Yeah.
No, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Josh, you said before that you worked through like a backlog of stuff from Bradley and Dylan.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like how backed up of a backlog are we talking here? Because you said like this stuff is like transitional between Delicate Places We Hide and the new direction. So like what are we working on? Let's.
I feel like I shouldn't have laughed so quickly and so soon because it's not as nefarious as my laugh.
I can't say too much, but yeah, we are working. We do have a sort of a longer format project that we're working on or have worked
Refining,
on.
Love this.
Yeah, but.
I'm always going to catch those details. You can't slip anything by me.
Yeah, but that's that hinges upon like a few things. Like we would like to secure label backing before doing that, so that we can have proper
still a work in
push
progress,
and stuff like that.
I guess I asked that question because I noticed the tracks on this record to me seem to be embracing a little bit more grit and texture, a little bit more heaviness, and have like a little bit more, I don't want to say like aggressive characteristics, but like they have a little bit more oomph to them than some of the previous stuff.
Yeah, so that's definitely
and that's like a conscious kind of shift that you guys are working with.
Yeah.
Dope.
I feel like the transition to being like, I shouldn't say like all bands, but most bands being so live focused, like being us being able to prioritize things that we can then translate live much more seamlessly instead of having that kind of like jump between recorded version and live version. Like we can kind of mix and jump between and still have like, I keep going back to No Cure, but I feel like No Cure is a really good example because it like starts soft, goes heavy, slows down for the bridge, and then goes heavy again till the end, sort of thing. Like it's got that.
Is that heavy? Do you?
Like.
I guess like
in the same.
It's all relative.
Yeah, like, heavy is in like quiet, loud. Like,
okay.
It's like sort of sense.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's not
rises and falls.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like that works a lot better live. Like the translation from recording to live, it's more of a. I like that song better live.
That's fair. Do you guys like as a collective, once you've got stuff pulled out of that backlog with Bradley and Dylan, and then you kind of work on it, shape it, you all kind of add your bits and pieces to it. Is there ever a discussion about like how is this going to play live, or does that feed into that process at all?
I try not to let that feed into it. So. While I say I try not to, there was a debate with Beware of the Dog, the heavy part at the end. There's like a vocal part on that nearly didn't make it in, and my whole argument was, bro, in the live context,
this will be fine.
This will be sick. Yeah. And then it we ended up keeping it in there, but that nearly got cut.
Have you played it live? Is it sick?
We've rehearsed it a few times. We'll definitely be adding it to the set, but not for the Boston Manor shows, and probably not for Big Sound.
Okay.
Potentially late November, but
I'd like to play it for late November because it'll be like kind of properly out then. But I feel like for Big Sound, just because of like the reasoning for it itself, it would be kind of silly for us to play a song that we haven't got like, spin around upside down dialed, like where we're playing in front of people who
we're still
usually
like
get
figuring
to
out
play in front of. So
that's fair enough. Let's pivot now and talk about some of the singles on the EP. There's two in particular that I want to dig into, mainly from a lyrical perspective.
Okay.
The first one being White Lace.
Yep.
We featured this one on the podcast. I don't know, whenever you released it. So like probably like
a month and a half.
A month or two ago now. But great song. The kind of thematic hook of it I found quite interesting because, and I guess like you can expand on this, Josh, but it was written from your perspective regarding your relationship with your partner and getting married. So can you explain that for listeners and watchers and what the deal is with White Lace?
Yeah, so earlier this year, my now wife and I got married.
Congratulations.
Just quickly silence that, sorry.
Do you need to take that?
No.
Okay.
Nah, it's just my brother. He can wait. Yeah, sorry, where was I?
You got married.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so got married earlier this year. And that was really nice and beautiful. But like my wife and I had been together for 12 years at this point.
Wow.
And for the longest time we were both pretty like anti-tradition and like didn't like the whole I don't know, the weird sort of like ownership-y type vibes that come along with like the tradition of marriage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there came a point in time where my wife started sort of expressing that maybe that is something that she would like. And like, I don't want to make it seem like it wasn't something that I wanted as well, but like, we sort of came to that together that maybe that is something that we wanted to experience.
And I would imagine being together for 12 years, like, that's something that over time would eventually just kind of make sense or feel right. Despite any kind of potential misgivings you might have.
Yeah, and it does, definitely. So that first verse is sort of, there's like nods to a song off of Delicate Places We Hide throughout that track. But yeah, so there's nods in that first verse, and then so it's like a fall from grace is not something that I had planned. So like just like a fall from like my moral high groundy like viewpoint, so that's sort of what I'm trying to like communicate there. And then that second verse, on the day, so that's more on the day, whereas the first verse is like probably based around us coming to that decision together. 6, 12, however long it was beforehand. So the second verse is about the day. So on the day, so the lyrics are veiled sight, walking up the line. So she was wearing a veil, like as brides do, walking up the line, the aisle. As she was walking up the aisle,
did you cry?
I did, yeah.
You got
It
you
was
got-
so
you got-
fucking
you
good,
got
yeah.
man. It was so
Yeah,
good.
and then I made heaps of people cry. It was
Yeah.
cool.
Paige said to me, she was like, "If you don't cry," she's like, "I will leave you at the altar."
You turn it straight
I
around.
think my wife said something similar too.
She's like, "You better fucking cry.
Yeah, yeah, they love it. They love it.
You gotta do,
They
you
love
gotta
it.
do it."
Oh yeah. Yeah, so it was a really like hot and like humid day.
A bit sticky.
Yeah, and as she was walking up the aisle, there was this like cool breeze that came in, so like a breath of fresh air. And then with a heavy turn, the sun hits you just right. So it was like cloudy and like it sounds ridiculous.
It was like
but
pretty rainy. We all had
yeah. So it was
Yeah,
cloudy,
wow.
and as she was walking up, there was that cool breeze, and then the clouds sort of parted, and the light.
Universe is giving you a sign of like it's all
It
good.
was
It's all good.
crazy. Yeah, it was such a poetic moment. I'm getting goosebumps
Yeah.
talking about it.
It's like, it was a very lovely ceremony.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
that's sick. I just think it's such a interesting thing to turn into art and to turn into music, particularly, rock band music. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and it's something that I think is interesting to talk to as well, because like so many people our age have this cultural and societal expectation put on them about marriage and about some like hypothetical clock running out, particularly for women, like this kind of social pressure to like be married and tied down, like
you don't want to be used goods, or
yeah, just all that kind of
something-
like horrible
yeah,
shit. And
exactly. Yeah,
like, Paige and I got married in the middle of the pandemic. Great timing. And and like I kind of resonated with the lyrical content of the song, because like we had very similar conversations about like, the institution of marriage
Yeah.
is like kind of fucked. And like a lot of the traditional aspect has been to like, control women.
Well, historically as well, like marriage was a trade. Like
yes,
it
a
was like,
transactional thing between
I give you
families
my
and
best
stuff.
pig for
Yeah.
your
Where's
daughter.
where's
yeah,
the dowry?
you know,
Can I have some goats, please?
Like
and that's like not something that we like ever really fucked with,
No,
Sorry, can I
so-
swear on this?
Of course you can.
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
cool.
hell yeah. No, so I completely relate to that message. And, everything that we did with our wedding was like, I guess like untraditional, but like we didn't even really think of it in that way. Like Paige proposed to me. So that's like
Ooh.
a reversal on tradition already. And then during the pandemic, we started like trying to organize our engagement. And then as we started like looking at a venue and looking at all the bits and pieces, we were just like,
So many like moving you don't realize
and
until
we were
you're
just like,
doing
do you
one.
just want to get married at the same time? Like, so we just did like a surprise wedding at the engagement. And we did it at do you guys know Moe's Desert Clubhouse? The
Oh, we're
venue?
playing there with
yeah, so
Late
that-
Nov.
that's
yeah.
where we got married.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
wow.
like,
So are you a Gold Coast?
we
boy,
were
or-
living in Coolangatta at the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my wife and I just moved to Miami. So
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
How weird.
I'm not going to sing the song.
Yeah, don't do
But
it.
yeah, so like we embraced kind of just doing whatever we wanted to do, and we tried to kind of not take on that baggage of like, is it going to be the traditional wedding? Is it going to be what people expect of us? We were just like, fuck that. Let's just do whatever we want to do, and as long as we both agree and come to that conclusion, like everything else is fine.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So yeah, I just think that's a cool inspiration for music. Brent, I want to get your read on White Lace as a song, and even Josh's lyrics. Like, what was your first thought?
It's actually so odd that you asked that question, because we literally had this conversation last night about
Oh hell yeah!
it not being like a pushy cringe sort of like, yeah, everybody should get married. Marriage is great.
It's not
like,
that at all.
Oh yeah, or in like inversely, like it doesn't feel like super pushy. Like, I got married, everyone. Hey, did you hear I wrote a song about getting married because I love my
You
wife?
should get married too.
Yeah, get married. If you don't write a song for your wife, you don't love her, kind of thing. But yeah, no, it was. It's like, it's kind of odd to think of a song about like, which just boils down to love being like critiqued in that way of like, if it had been that, doesn't really change it, but
No.
it's still like I enjoyed the fact that it wasn't so like black and white about that, especially to like with what you were saying with his nods to like previous.
I try not to
lyrics.
be too on the nose.
Yeah, it's like a very lived experience, but it's a relatable lived experience
definitely.
story. Is the way like I pretty much summed it up last night when we were talking about that, because it's sick, and I really like the the cover to the video that you put together. It's just me being the snotty bastard holding my sinuses, and he's like, "Oh, I'll change the cover photo for it. Don't worry." And then like the song came out, and he's like, "I didn't do it. It's fine."
Yeah, I was going to.
Forever.
Yeah, it's
I was
so
going to, and then I saw it, and then I like thought about it a little bit more, and I was like,
This is sweet.
It's a bit nice little ridiculous
actually,
thing of like, just holding it.
I like that.
A song about marriage, and I'm there holding my nose because I'm a snotty mess. But in a very quick roundabout way, is like I agree wholeheartedly with like the same concepts that you've both spoken about.
Yeah.
I was engaged to my ex partner in the same vein of like not wanting to go through the rigmarole of the traditional crap, and that ultimately led to why we then didn't get married before we decided to separate. But yeah, like the same sort of idea of like last name taking and like that possessive stuff like you guys were talking about before. I just like
we still don't know
if
my wife's taking my last name or not.
Paige hasn't formally taken mine, and I was like, you do whatever you want to do. Like,
and like just
her parents keep on asking, and I think my mum's asked a few times and stuff like that, and I'm just like, well, that's like a big deal, you know, like I don't have to change my name.
Yeah,
it's a bit.
So that can just be her decision, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Whatever she wants to do.
I think
yeah.
I'm just thinking as a society we're kind of past that shit anyway.
Well, we're past like the need for it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and the only real reason for that still existing is out of that kind of patriarchal tradition. So like there isn't any real need for that because, you know, women can be completely independent entities and can own property and have jobs and pay taxes.
So
like they don't need a man's name to do it. So like, yeah, it's crazy. And even just like the experience of getting married and then having a bunch of like close friends and people that I know also kind of go through the same process. I found myself just like imparting whatever, like, I hate to call it wisdom, but like whatever kind of experience I had kind of afterwards, just being like, do whatever you want to do. It's like, just fuck everyone else. Do whatever you want to do.
That are make it living through you in that moment and that experience.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, you know, don't feel like you need to go broke, like spending stupid amounts of money on it, because like it is such a predatory industry that like
it is.
We'll try and send you bankrupt and just everything.
It's like vets as well. Like I'll put them in the same category. Wedding venues and vendors and stuff like
anything
that.
that they can put a premium on.
Yeah,
they will.
Like the joke about the wedding tax is so real. Like, you want to hire the venue? $100. Oh, sorry, you said for a wedding, $1,500. I misspoke.
Those are wedding flowers. Oh, I didn't realize that'll be $3,000. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I love it.
What makes my place in flowers the summer months? Raise your brown face for every hour. I had a dream I met you and I'm nearby. Those who never run, I'll take your hand. We walk through the gardens. I told you things you never told anyone. And
okay, so enough on White Lace. The other one I wanted to talk about is the most recent single and the video, which at the time of recording I don't think is out yet, but when this is published it'll definitely be out, and I'll chuck it in the episode. But talk to me about Beware the Dog.
Beware of the Dog. So that was a really easy one. Like the lyrics and like the melodies, they came super easy to me. Bradley and I were hanging out at his house. I think, trying to remember what we were doing that day. I think we were just hanging out, really.
It's just the wind. Open the door.
It's
not
just
a ghost.
It's a ghost. That's a ghost. That's a ghost. Yeah, we were just hanging out, I think, and we were going through some of the tracks in the backlog, and I was like, I really like this, and then we were playing it, and I just sort of started freestyling the chorus, and then the chorus came, and then literally maybe
you guys like 2 hours to nut it out.
Yeah.
It was a really quick turnaround song after the shell was.
Yeah, once the chorus
refounded.
was done, like once I figured out that chorus, by the time I had gotten home, like 2 or 3 hours later, it was pretty much
all done.
yeah.
I think sometimes that kind of spontaneity can be quite powerful if you're able to kind of harness it while you've got that creative spark.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
to just kind of power through it, you can get a lot out of it.
Yeah, definitely. Bradley contributed lyrics and melody to the latter half, or maybe it's just maybe the back quarter of the chorus. I had a different thing in mind. He was like, "What about if we did this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually,
why not? Let's go."
You're right. What if we did do that? Because that's
will.
better."
And lyrically as well, like the track is a fairly kind of angry one, and it is about like kind of labor exploitation, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just like it's like a combination of that, because like what I was drawing from, like I look back on that workplace fondly now that I'm not working there. You know,
hindsight 2020.
Yeah.
I thought this was
Better the devil, you know. No, not in that sense. Just like I had fun.
Yeah,
it was fun. I had a great team that I was working with, and they were all like good people, and it was fun. I just like so. I had started sort of working there. I'm pretty experienced and qualified in the field that I work in. And I just sort of, I spent 5 years working there, and it felt like I'd sort of been promised, potential for growth and stuff like that. And I'd sort of, after about the 2-year mark, I realized there was a ceiling and that I'd hit it.
Yeah.
I was just comfortable. And I started sort of like just getting like in trouble for like really nitpicky things. And like, it's a weird workplace. I won't go too deep into it, but like, just like, getting cautioned on like things that I didn't need to be cautioned on, and like performance stuff when I was already, doing like 5 people's job.
Yeah.
And receiving a shit kicker's pay for it. And it was just sort of, that was pretty much what it was about. It's just a middle finger to my ex-boss, who I actually do love. But I just had to get those feelings out, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's, something to be said for catharsis, right? Is like, you got to take negative emotions and do something with them. You either sublimate them and then they metastasize, and you usually have like a fucking temper explosion or like a mental break or whatever, or you turn them into art and you turn them into some kind of outlet that is a healthy expression of that kind of negativity. Which is definitely what Beware of the Dog is. We talked about it before as being one of the tracks that has like a bit of a heavier kind of component to it. Did that come naturally kind of with the lyrics in that process that you were talking about before? Like it just kind of fit like it felt natural to have a bit of more of an aggressive tone, and
and vibe, and like I don't know, just the energy of the song and the driviness of it, and that like that lead and all of that sort of stuff. It just the delivery just sort of was immediately like
kind of just
I
makes
just
sense,
knew, yeah,
right? Like,
it made sense.
if
Yeah,
the song is, you know,
that song wrote itself really.
if the
like,
song is a
as
middle
far
finger,
as
like,
the lyrics and stuff go.
you got to throw a little bit of grit in
Yeah,
there.
there was a little that little
Yeah.
punch is definitely like the metalcore root sort of powering through with the little
You're like,
chug,
I've been waiting for this.
little
Let's go.
chug part as well. But yeah, no, it's fun, that little like heavier part, because I feel like that's a really nice accurate representation of like more of the live set, because it is a little bit more on like the
Yeah.
oof.
Yeah, well, like we don't run tracks or anything like that, so
Oh yeah.
and like we definitely play heavier than the recording.
Yeah, some of
as
the
well.
songs will be a little bit faster, or we'll have like another intro in it.
That's always sick though, and like that's one of the things that I love about, you know, live music and rock music in general, is that like the live experience should have a bit of a looser kind of feel. So like the tempos can change, tuning might be a little bit more in your face, particularly if you're standing in front of a fucking speaker stack. You know, it's going to sound a little bit different on record,
Yeah.
which I think is a good thing. Let's kind of pivot now and talk about kind of what you guys have been doing in that live realm. So you got some touring stuff to talk about. Currently on tour, doing some headline shows or supporting headline shows for Boston Manor from the UK.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this before off mic, but you've done 2 of those already or 1?
We
2 shows down.
Two shows down. Last one's tomorrow night.
Yeah, sick. What's the vibe been like? How have they been?
It's been great.
So like the running of the shows have been quite nice and lovely from all the people that have been there. So like, pardon me, even as soon as we got to
We all burped at the same time. It was
Amazing.
It was
I'll do
sync.
it again. Yeah, when we got to the Newcastle show, Boston was sound checking and like stopped and said hi. Like the guys were all super, super nice. And once they finished, came and introduced themselves. Like their crew was super lovely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They invited us out to breakfast. So,
That's
yeah,
dope.
just stuff like that, and a few tours in, and it's like not a very common thing. So
No.
it's yeah, and like I understand that it's because we're this is job 2.0. So
Yeah.
but it's they're super accepting, super lovely.
Yeah.
Had some really nice chats last night.
Yeah.
In Canberra, which was like my first time in Canberra, so the Canberra show was really cool for me.
Yeah, Canberra was actually sick. Newcastle was really fun as well. I made a cool joke, actually, really cool joke. It wasn't even a joke, actually, because I'm still
He was
unsure.
slightly misled potentially.
I'm still unsure whether there is or isn't a castle in Newcastle.
We've been told
Right.
that,
And I was like,
castle.
I said, Newcastle, guys. Not a lot of castles around here, and you could hear the exasperated sighs from the
Beautiful.
It was cool. I felt good about
Well,
it.
you're
got
married
a
now.
laugh
You're one
at
step
it.
away
Yeah.
from like doing dad jokes.
He got
Yeah.
a laugh out of
Yeah.
me, but I was laughing at him.
Yeah. So they've been awesome. Super stoked to be on that. Really, really happy to have landed such a great first run, like a main support slot with an international act.
Couldn't have been a best.
Couldn't
first
be a better.
experience.
Yeah, I was thinking about like in terms of different audiences and stuff, because like, you know, the old adage is like you do the support so that you can try and steal some of their fans, you know, like you want to try and like play to a bit of a different audience and hopefully kind of win some people over.
Venn diagram with their fans, our
exactly.
fans.
Yeah. So like the Boston Manor crossover is pretty pretty hefty, I would imagine. Like you guys are pretty like similar kind of vein, both in the rock arena. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like,
Yeah.
not too far a stretch for fans to be in the crowd and
It's
be like, "This is sick." I
It's a
like
good
this.
mix. Yeah.
Nice, same sound, not same sound bill, but yeah, it's nice.
It makes sense.
It fits for
You
sure.
be copping the Slayer openers
And
fuck off the stage.
yeah, it's good. And there's definitely, you know, like at the end of each set, there's definitely a large amount of people that, you know, come up and want to have a chat, and you know, they say, "Oh yeah, hadn't heard of you before this. So glad that you guys got this because it's fucking sick." And
Yeah, it's awesome.
you know, which is cool. It's cool. So like, we do definitely find ourselves on heavier bills from time to time. Yeah, so it's cool to be on tour with
On tour with our sound and crowd sort of deal.
That makes perfect sense. And like, there's definitely an advantage to playing on heavier bills and being
absolutely
being the
not knocking it at all.
being
But
the
yeah.
lighter contrast, but
Yeah.
it'd be good to be on the other side.
I
as
mean,
well.
it's awesome. It's awesome to be in this position that we've found ourselves in, where we do fit a heavy bill, and then we also fit a softer bill
Yeah,
as
totally.
well. I mean, that's a
That's
great
the best of both worlds.
that's a
We've
great
made
realm to be
made a few
in for
jokes
sure.
about that ability to have a heavy and a soft set. So I think that's like some big goals. Maybe one
mean,
day to
Yeah,
do just heavy songs, and then another set.
I mean, if you're
soft
working
songs
through
and-
this backlog that we're talking about, like you've got plenty in the can, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Big Sound. So you guys are doing the showcase for this year's Big Sound early September, and by the time this comes out, I think Big Sound will already be wrapped up, and you would have already played those shows. So congrats, they were dope, sick, love that.
killed it.
I'm actually going to be at Big Sound.
Oh, awesome.
So I think I will come and see you guys.
See.
Yeah.
Much easier for me to do that than to try and go to Geelong from here. So I'm probably going to miss the Geelong show.
It's so nuts.
You could just go and get on a plane at Tullamarine and then catch it to Avalon.
Yeah.
Do they have flights that run from Tullamarine to Avalon?
I don't think so. That would be kind of crazy. But
That would be so crazy.
that'd be wild. I do remember like
10-minute
Swift
10-minute flight?
I remember years ago, I came down to Melbourne from Queensland just for like, I don't know, like a show or like hanging out with someone. And I got cheap Jetstar flights and didn't see that they were Avalon flights.
Yeah, I've
And then
done
I
it.
landed in Avalon and I was like, where the fuck am I? Like,
Yeah, I've done it. I've done it before.
and then you got to get on that bus and do like an hour and 10-minute drive back
Yep.
into the city. So
Yep.
fun stuff.
Wow. I have seen a Brisbane to Gold Coast flight.
I have
That
seen that too.
was through Sydney.
Really?
Yeah. So
Yeah, they call that
Very
the
bizarre.
milk run, where you're like just going on like a stupid like bow flight.
yeah,
Yeah.
makes no sense.
It makes no
I
sense.
actually when I proposed to my partner, my wife,
My wife,
yeah, it's so hard not to do that.
Dude,
bro.
I do it
yeah,
all the
yeah,
time.
it's so hard. Yeah,
we've been married for nearly 3 years and I'm still doing it. It's crazy.
but yeah, we had a bit of a nightmare when I proposed. So Virgin had changed our flights, and the email went to our spam because, of course, that's where it should be.
Of course, yeah.
We rocked up and they were like, "Oh yeah, your flight left 3 hours ago," and we're like, "Oh, cool. So how are we gonna fix this?" And they were like, "Well, we can put you on a flight to Melbourne, and then you can go from Melbourne. It'll only take an extra hour and a half." No, it took 15 hours. It's a 4-hour flight.
That's fucked up.
Yep.
I hate flying.
Yep.
Jesus
And
Christ.
like that's that like, so I had like 3 plans when I was going to propose, and all of them fell through, so I just ended up winging it in the end. But I blame it all on that initial. I blame Virgin. I
Yeah.
blame Richard Branson.
Yeah, blame him. Fuck
Yeah.
him.
That fucking.
Is he even the CEO of that anymore?
A virgin?
Yeah.
I think he is.
I think
yeah.
he's still kicking.
It's
around.
very much a Branson thing, I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
Down.
of like fucked up flights, I have a story. So I was in Boston for like some uni stuff in 2019, and Paige was going to fly over to meet me in New York, and I'd been there for like 3 weeks, and then she was going to come over, and then we were going to meet up in New York, spend like a week in New York, fly home together. And my plan was to like get a flight from Boston to JFK in New York. It's like a hour flight, if that, super short. And then on the day, there's like this crazy thunderstorm, and I start getting all these notifications that like flight has been delayed, flight has been delayed, flight has been delayed. And like the whole point was that I wanted to get that specific flight to be there before she landed, so that I could like go like meet her at the gate and do like the whole meet cute of like, oh hey, yeah, the sign, all that sort of shit, right? And then that just became increasingly impossible, and I like, you know, like speed run my way to the airport. I'm like changing flights. I go and like put my check my baggage in, and then the flights keep getting bumped back. And I'm just like, fuck. So I'm like in the lounge looking up, and I was like, all right, maybe I'll just get the train. And like you can get the Amtrak train for about the same cost as a flight. And I think it's like a couple of hours. But I was like, in all this fucking around, if I just go now and get a train, I will definitely be there, and I can like try and meet up with her. So I had to go and like politely ask them to go and like find my luggage on like the thing that's just been sitting out on the tarmac, like waiting for a plane. I had to go get my luggage, bring it back. That was a whole ordeal. And then I got it, and then I had to get a cab to the train station, and then like pay for a train ticket, and then do the train. And it was a whole fucking thing. But like by the time I got there, she'd already landed, and then was like at the hotel. And I like pulled up in a cab, and she was like chilling outside the hotel in like 2 a.m. in New York. So like I understand of like having the plan and then just having it like fall through, and you're just like,
That's so
And, like,
funny.
that was
For my ex, I had the same thing happen. Like I planned to do it. I did it in Japan. I had a plan to go to this park, and that failed after Airbnb screwed us. And so the last place that we had, there was a park, and as we walked past it, she was like, "Oh, that park's creepy as fuck." And I'm just like,
amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
So
I
did it in a random street in Japan.
So
incredible.
So I got really sick when we got there, and it wiped out the first 2 days, and that was like, so we lost a day at the really expensive accommodation, like the fancy expensive one, which was when I was planning, because it was like, you know,
production values. You spent money on this.
Yeah. So I got sick, vomiting. They ended up we ended up calling like a doctor out to give me like an IV drip and stuff.
Holy fuck.
Well, yeah, because that's like how you cure the whole like traveler's gut thing.
Just like flush the system, I guess.
Yeah. They just like give you a bunch of vitamins and water, and it's probably just water, but
I mean, it's like a saline drip, right? Like just like some electrolytes and salts and
and vitamins. Anyway,
Yummy.
we ended up getting that back on travel insurance, which is cool.
Nice.
But yeah, so I got sick. And then my next plan was we went to this like remote island called Nusa Penida, which is like, it's pretty cool. You know, it's like dirt roads, and you have to catch like a 3-hour ferry over there.
Yeah.
And
secluded, isolated.
Yeah. And it's like, it's pretty untouched. I don't know what it's like now. But yeah, then it was like pretty bare bones. And then my wife got sick. She didn't have the luxury of having anyone to call out to give her the IV drip and stuff. She didn't even, so they don't have a hospital on the island, or if they did, it's like weird hours. It's like
Yeah.
9 to 5. That's when
It's
it's
not
open,
like
sort of thing.
permanently like
Yeah,
manned or
It's not-
anything. So
yeah. They don't have like doctors and stuff like that out on the island. So that wiped out my second plan. And then, oh wait, that wiped out plan 2 and 3.
Man, how do you have so many backup plans? This is crazy.
I didn't have any after that, so
That's what we meant.
we went back to the main island a few days later, and I was in this cab, and I was like, I saw this like there was like a big shrine and stuff like that, and I was like, oh yeah, that looks cool. We should pull over and check that out. And then there was like this cool story to the shrine. So it was like called the God's Bell. So they like ring that when, I don't know, I can't remember the story behind it. But yeah, so we were like climbing up to the top of this. There was like this big spire in the middle of Denpasar. So she was still sick. So she was like
Slow.
way behind me. I got up to the top, and I'm like, is this the moment? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. So I got down on one knee, and she just like got up there and walked past me, and I'd like cleared my throat, and yeah, that was it. Yeah, and then
beautiful.
she turned around, yeah. But yeah, that was cool. I kind of prefer it that way, like
Well, I mean,
that was
like,
better than anything that I planned.
it
Anyway.
preserves some of the spontaneity and stuff that we were talking about. Like you
Yeah.
just gotta strike while the iron's hot, you know. So that's good.
The stress level of that pre-moment, as I'm sure you guys are well aware as married people, is just insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as someone who was proposed to, yeah, I can imagine that it's pretty stressful. But I know from Paige relaying her story that like we did a similar thing. We went out to like a little island off Queensland, and it's like a short little ferry. Not many people living on the island, and we've been there a few times to just do like some kind of day trip, kind of just beach stuff. So we get there, we go around to the side of the island that's like no one really goes to it. Paige like sets up a little like picnic and has everything like ready to go, and she's gonna do like a cute like message in a bottle type thing with like a "Will you marry me?" She had it all planned out, and then like the moment that she decided to do it, just like a random couple is like walking up the beach.
Amazing.
And she's just in there, just like, fucking leave, go.
Why are you still here?
That's
Why are you here?
amazing.
But yeah, it all went off, fine.
Yeah.
And it was super cute. And
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, I'm getting proposed to. Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
look at these little married
I
guys.
wish I could
I
have
know.
gotten proposed to now. That sounds good.
it's nice. Okay, we've talked about touring stuff, some of the shows coming up. Let's wrap up and talk about what's next for the band. So obviously, EP comes out.
Yep.
You've got these final Boston Manor shows, Big Sound. All of that's going to be wrapped up by the time people are watching this. So
Yep.
what's next?
We've got a few dates with late November, late September.
It's an odd sentence to say. I've
Yep.
said it so many times recently.
And
Wait, the band is late September?
no,
We
they're
are
late.
playing with late November in late September.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we got a few. So we got a date in Burleigh and a date in Brisbane with them. Then just
Yeah, I don't think we've got any
don't
shows
have
locked
heaps,
in.
heaps of plans.
for the
I'm
rest of
sure.
the year.
I'm sure we'll have some stuff that crops up
Yeah, for
before the
sure.
end of the year. It'd be great to do a major city run
Yeah.
Yeah.
next time.
The plan and the idea would be to run something for hopefully like a Brisbane headliner for ourselves. It'd be
Yeah. Dope.
Yeah.
nice.
Have you guys done like an East Coast headline run?
No.
Now's the time.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Hopefully. Well, yeah, we've kind of been not pushing back, but waiting on the Brisbane headliner just to see.
Yeah, see how
'Cause
ticket sales go in our
yeah,
home
we kind of
city,
really
sort
want
of
to be
stuff like
sure
that.
before we go through
No,
the
that makes-
process of it.
That
And
makes
it's
perfect
like
sense.
the post-COVID fun of gigs has kind of died off now. So now it's like we kind of have to really sink it in to
Yeah.
get get people to come to the shows, which is
And there's also lots of shows happening.
Yeah.
And lots of tours. So like the saturation is pretty high. So like you can't count on just the blow in.
we had a lovely package set up for the start of the year, but it didn't line up. So it's for me the package is more the idea of like we have to have a nice little. It has to be a fun night. It's not just going to be, oh, we've got these bands that can open for us. Like I want it to be something a bit nicer, so that we're not just doing a gig.
We've definitely we've thrown around the idea of having our bros in Wife Cult do like a co-headline or something like that. But that could be something that we end up doing. But yeah, I would probably like to do another main support slot for major cities before headlining, I think.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that'll come up before the end of the year, and then 2025 is
hoping
the
so.
year of Sunbleached.
Let's hope so.
Let's bloody hope so, Mark.
All right, well, let's wrap it up there for the main episode. Josh, Brent, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Everyone should go and stream the new EP. It's great. I'm going to read out the title again. I Crawled Into the Hole. Go stream it in full. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Subscribe now to the Pitch of Discontent Patreon to receive access to extended cuts of our bonus episodes, as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes content, monthly Patreon-only episodes, member-only votes, the TPD community chat, and much more. Go now to patreon.com/TPDpod and join for as little as $5 a month. That link again is patreon.com/TPDpod. Thanks for watching the show.